right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Serverless Chats on the Believe in Serverless stream. I've got Vadym here this morning from Europe, who's going to talk to us about Lambdas and Java and all things amazing in the Java ecosystem. So welcome.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the introduction. I will now test how to...
Go ahead. I try presenting your screen, and I'm going to shift to change screen layout to when you start presenting. We should be good to go.
So now you're supposed to see my screen, and now it goes in the full.
There you go.
Now you see how I'm scrolling.
Yeah, there we go. So I'm going to step away from the view so they can focus on you in the presentation.
Yeah, thanks. So the most difficult part is now over with with all the sharing stuff on the new platform. So yeah, thanks once again for having me with the talk High Performance Serverless Java on AWS. And yeah, it's a good day. The first talk was by Yan Kui, so just the ultimate experts in serverless on AWS. So it's, yeah, now I follow with the topic kind of my heart. I have these two passions, Java and serverless, and I like to explore things. I like talking about it. And basically, yeah, I'm in both communities. I'm one of the co-organizers of Java User Group Bond since 6 years, basically from the beginning as we started. And I'm also AWS community builder now for the 5th year, so also from the beginning. And yeah, I started to develop basically in the end of the last century and was Java developer for many, many years. So this is kind of what I also following, how just to adopt things on AWS, because the community struggles, it's obvious. So you can get in touch with me via different channels. I have quite unique surnames, so very, very easy to find everywhere. So if you have questions after that, please reach out. So let's jump directly into the topic. Just let's look at the Java popularity. I always update this slide, but the result is always basically the same. So there are so many different algorithms how this popularity can be measured, number of GitHub repositories with Java, number of job postings and all that stuff. But anyway, just doesn't matter what index or what algorithm you will take. Java is basically among top three languages. Depending on that, you will always see some kind of JavaScript, Python, Java in different sequence. Sometimes there are different languages, but basically the Java popularity is undoubtful. Yeah, if we will look into the life of serverless developer in AWS, it's currently pretty okay, because AWS releases its own OpenJDK version, Amazon Coretta. There they committed to support for long-term versions only. This is 11, 17, 21. The next one will be 25 in September next year, and they are committed to support longer this open source, this long-term versions, as for example the Oracle JDK does. And yeah, the Java 21 support was released basically 2 months after official release, which is quite a good. As you see, Java 17 support was released 6 months before, so we needed to wait quite a bit. It had reasons, and of course it caused frustration, but AWS improved now with Java 21 so that the community can enjoy the the benefits of the features of the kind of 4 releases in a row. And yeah, these are people that I found working on Amazon Coretta, on the Java compiler, on improving things. And basically nobody needs to introduce James Gosling, who is maybe even father of Java. But there are also other people who are very known. For example, Alexei Shipilev worked for Red Hat, and he's known for work on compilers and all that stuff, and Shenandoah, Java garbage collector algorithm. So now helping there. And I have also 2 German people for but also just things on Lambda. So generally, Java is a very fast.
We might have lost Vadym for a moment. Hang in there. Feeling some dead air at the moment. No worries. It looks like we lost him for a bit. Curious to know if anybody on the stream is using Java in Lambda. It looks like Daryl's got some comments in there. Coding GUIs, working with Java. Yep. Yeah, scary startup times. Definitely the case with launching all the pieces that happen with the launching the JVM. And I've seen some work done with Spring Boot for hosting kind of the monolithic APIs, which is a neat approach, especially when you've got so much investment already in the Java ecosystem. Anybody out there got any other experiences that they've been working on with Java? So hopefully he'll be back here shortly so that we can keep on going. I hate to have connectivity issues, especially on something that we've been looking forward to so much. Mm-hmm. Well, just to fill in the time again till he joins back. Anybody got any questions or any comments or things to talk about from a serverless standpoint? I don't have any content to pivot, so I'm legitimately fielding questions at the moment. If you've got anything that you want to chat about. Has anybody used SnapStart in production or even in a proof of concept from a Java standpoint? Yeah, no. Okay. Still no word back from Vadym, so kind of wait until he gets back into the mix here. Hate to have to pivot too much, but has anybody seen any of the information or content coming out from I guess the thing that's on my mind at the moment is Datadog and some of the Rust observability and the pieces that I've been working on the last couple of weeks. Anybody seen any information on that or want to chat on that for a couple of minutes till he gets back here? Mm-hmm. Anybody excited about the Olympics? Yay for Rust. I know. How did we get Rust conversation in Java? I guess it's because I'm filling some void, and that's the thing that's on my mind the most. Olympics will be good, James says. Exciting for that. James, have you used Java at all with Lambda? Yeah, yay for Rust. I agree with that one too. Yeah, you have lots. Yeah, I've only done a handful of Java lambdas, but if Vadym doesn't come back, do we want to pivot over to looking? I can pull up some Rust code and look at some Datadog if that would be interesting to anyone until he gets back in the mix. Oh, serverless Java Memento. James on the use cases need to keep Lambda hot are going to be slow. I don't know. Tell you what, any objections to me pivoting over to looking at some code for the next 40 or 50 minutes or until Vadym's able to come back? I hate to waste a live stream. Sub-second. Yeah, cool. I'm going to go just pivot over. So I'm going to take a peek. I'm going to pull up, share my screen, and share a window. Open my laptop. Bizarre. You guys still hear me okay? All right. So let's jump in and take a quick look. So I'm building a simple HTTP API gateway Lambda event handler that'll eventually kind of have some right ahead caching with Memento, which is something that I'm working on, and building out a Git handler with some CDK. And James will recognize some of this. I'm also using our new Datadog, the new Datadog thing that AJ was talking about just last week. So let me get plugged into my Amazon account so we can dig in and take a look at some of this. And bear with me. I was not prepared to stream this morning, so I'm just going to poke around a little bit. And I'm really not awesome with toggling between windows, but so I'll just share my whole screen at the moment. How about that? Yeah, sure. Oh, wow, that's cool. That's the wrong screen. I'm going to share screen 2. Screen 2. There we go. I'm going to move that over so I can see that as well. All right. So I have, go saying, creating an API gateway that houses a demo API. That demo API is going to have a set of resources, and those resources are going to perform get operations, and then we'll create some post operations, and then those posts are going to essentially write into our cache in Memento so that I can improve performance. And then I'm doing all of the observability on this with Datadog via the open telemetry for Rust pieces. And using the latest version, which is still early on and what is alpha, I guess, for Datadog in their Rust bottle cap Lambda library that AJ was talking about last week. So yeah, let's just jump right in. So I've got a CDK project that is building my API and functions. So pretty straightforward so far. We've got a table that I'm creating, and that table's just a really basic DynamoDB table that calling it the Memento sample table. That sample table then gives me access to build an API gateway. In this API gateway, we're calling just demo API. Going to be able to hit it from the main root. I don't have a custom domain name or anything like that. And we got a REST API built. And then I'm building right now so far just this get handler function. If you've used or read any of the serverless Rust content using Cargo Lambda and the Cargo Lambda much, I'll show you the Cargo Lambda. Let's see here, package.json. Yeah, Cargo Lambda CDK. So that is the CDK wrapper or the CDK construct for being able to build Lambda functions in Rust. So if I go back to the get handler function, my get handler function is going to use this REST function, which is defined up there in this Cargo Lambda import. You essentially pointed at a manifest file. So from the Rust standpoint, our cargo for that actual package, function name, simple stuff, duration, always ARM all the time. Ignore the fact that I've hard coded my API key because that's fine. You can steal it and I'll just change it in about 10 minutes. And then I've got my Datadog endpoint, and then I'm adding a layer. And this layer is my terminal window got too big there. Let's see. Stretched all the way out. Hang on, let's double check that Vadym's not, nope, I definitely have got no access. Just double checking that he wasn't pinging me. All right, so looking here, here's our Lambda layer, which is based on the, like I said, the bottle cap beta that Datadog is working on. And then adding in a couple of Datadog pieces for version, service, and application. And then I'm just adding a Lambda integration, just a proxy integration. So if we go back out here and take a look at our API gateway resource, you'll see that we've got the integration request is going to this Lambda function. It's in US West 2. It's a proxy integration, and it's got the default 29-second timeout. Yeah, kind of cool. Then from there, I am able to execute that endpoint based on the actual path that I've got set up. And so here's the stage and the default endpoint that AWS created for me. I can execute that, and let's take a look. So I got 950 milliseconds, cold start. We're going to run this a couple of times, generate some traffic, and see what all kind of comes out from it. We'll give it a second. And let's see here. All right, so we should have some traces, and there we go. We've got some traces showing up in Datadog, which if you've never used Datadog before, let's just take a quick little tour of what this is doing. So Datadog is aggregating my traces and spans, right? So in the observability world, you've got traces, telemetry, you've got logs, and you've got metrics. So we're going to look at just what I'm doing so far. So I've got this get handler, which is defined in the Datadog world as these three unified tagging or these unified variables. So I'm assigning the environment to be local just because I called it local. It could be whatever you wanted. I'm also then setting the service to get handler, and then I'm setting the site. So that service is going to show up right here. Resources start to be defined based upon how I've instrumented, which we'll take a look at what that is as well. We'll see how far we can get in the next 42 minutes or 40 minutes. I have no idea how this is going to come together because, again, I was not prepared to live stream. So I am filling in the gap here. So in my function handler, I have a total span or a total, this main span that has then child spans. We've got fetch from Mo is one of these spans. And I've got fetched from DynamoDB, which is my other span, which looks like I've got a typo in the name, which we'll look at how to fix that. And then I can look at the waterfall view of this, which is kind of cool. I can see the actual fetch from Mo wrapped into the get handler, and then the fetch from DynamoDB. And then here's another way to look at it, which is the span list, which is just a vertical span list. And then I can look at a map, which I have no idea what that does yet, but apparently nothing at this point. So another really cool thing to look at is we can take a peek at the serverless infrastructure. Let's go over here and take a look at that. Serverless infrastructure is kind of cool. It's another way to look at your the way that your stuff is performing. Stuff is a highly technical term, obviously, and API get handler is actually what we named it, if I remember. Yeah, there it is. So service name and function name can be two different things. So I have an API get handler. That get handler is what shows up here. We can take a peek at this. We've got some duration. These are not full duration. So if you notice 200, or they are full duration. Sorry. These are actually running for this long. My Lambdas are running for this long. Why is that? Well, the reason why is because so we have duration, and so we have duration of this, and we have post run duration. So 196.49 delta from 235. The difference is that at the end of my request, Datadog is flushing that data. I am going across the country. The way I understand it, I am outside of my region. So the timing for 100 to 150 milliseconds is totally fine. I 100% agree with Daryl on this. I run all of my Java code. I work with a customer that's still got a good bit of Java, and we do all of their Java stuff is running in Fargate. So let's go a little further. So I mentioned that I've got some typo in here. So let's take a look in case you're not familiar with how to do open telemetry with Rust. Let's take a look at what that means. Let's get out of my CDK. What did I do here? Cancel. I don't know what I changed here. What did I change here? Okay, we'll get out of that. So let's jump into our Rust. So I like to organize my projects like this. I keep my infra code off to the side. And then I like to have my Lambda code kind of sitting in there. This is a multi-project or Rust project. I've got my cargo, my workspace toml, which is got members. Right now I just have a get handler and a shared library. My shared library is where I keep track of anything that I want to reuse across my project. So if I'm not, some places you might do layers with Rust, I can compile in what I want. I can reference it if I want. And so in this case, I've got some shared models that I'm working with. So my library has got models. I've got a domain model, which is this thing right here. And then I've got a cache model, which is really all I'm working off at the moment. And the cache model is nothing more than an ID, description, notes. These are all kind of make-believe things that I'm working with. But for our Git handler, let's take a look. So with all of our Rust projects, right? So there's no point in having these comments in here. Let's delete that. I've got this thing called Git handler. I have a reference to my shared library right here. And then I'm including a few packages that are meaningful. So the Lambda HTTP, this is actually a package that's supplied through the AWS runtime. Getting some interesting comments on a completely side thread. It's not how I planned it. I'm still filling in time. If you joined to see Vadym talk about Java and Lambda, that's where we started. He lost connectivity about 20 minutes ago or 15 minutes ago, and I am filling in with Rust and Lambda. So it's still serverless, but it's not Java, and I'm not Vadym. I don't know if any of those are good things, but here we are, and we're going to fill in the next 34 minutes with some content. And in case he comes back, we will pivot back to the Java. If he doesn't, then yeah, you're stuck with me and some Rust code. So with telemetry, I'm including, so here's Tokayo. Tokayo does, and it is Tokayo if I'm not mistaken. I know it pronounced Tokyo a lot, but I've been corrected. Yeah, I'm on the phone. So sorry, I'm at home and I've got family poking in my glass doors to my office. So Tokayo, and then I've got telemetry. So these telemetries, Tokayo also wrote tracing subscribers. Subscribers are kind of cool. They're kind of like what you would think of. You've got a tracing framework. That tracing framework can have different places that you can subscribe into. I've got some open telemetry pieces. Open telemetry Datadog is just a package or a crate that is available to me that helps set up some of the Datadog specific stuff. It is open source. And then the SDK, and then this tracing right here, which is another package. And then I'm referring the Memento package because I'm using the 0.4 version or 0.41.3 version of the Memento SDK for Rust, which we'll look at. You know who told me? Darko. Darko shared that with me. So, and I've heard it pronounced Tokayo from others too, but I know I started calling it Tokyo myself. Serde, lots of languages talk about marshaling. Serialization and deserialization is the Rust version of that. Not even the Rust version. It's just the way that Oh, weird. Back to it. Yep, no sound. Sorry, Zaid. I should be back now. If you're just joining again, I'm going through Rust and Lambda, not Vadym and Java. He had some connectivity issues, and here we are. So, yeah, so I've not worked with the control plane a ton. I have worked a good bit with the data plane, and yeah, that's what we're going to look at here. Sorry, I must have hit my mic somehow. There we go. It's in my way. Excuse me. So I've got a long running API key that I'm working with here. That's where this key comes from. And then I create it. Awesome. I've got a parameter that's fetching it. I grab my API key. If you notice these things unwrap, I'm trusting that I have some data there. Unwrapping is generally bad unless you know you should. And so I'm definitely being cautious with that. And then building a cache client. What I do like about their SDK is the fact that it feels very much like the AWS SDK, except significantly smaller. If you've seen me ask how to reduce, I'm a little gripey about the size of the code that gets generated or the stuff that gets included in the binary for some of the SDKs on the AWS side. The Memento side is super tiny. I think the entire SDK is like 600 kilobytes, which is awesome. It's a nice size package for all it does. I can create default TTL when I'm building it, when I'm setting data. That's kind of a nice thing. Yeah, I agree with you. So Daryl, same thing. I feel like sometimes we are so, we don't always discuss in person, and you're so used to just typing things. It's like the whole GIF and GIF thing among 9 million other things and acronyms and really abbreviations that we use. So I'm using a laptop. These are some configuration items. Like, don't worry about it. And I've got a Memento client, which is great. So with my Memento client built, I'm going to look at this initializing the Datadog pipeline. And what does it do? Oop, make sure that's, I got a ding. And there we go. And so what's nice about this is that the Datadog SDK with OpenTelemetry allows me to be able to just create a tracer, an OpenTelemetry SDK tracer to be exact, right? There it is. Somebody's taken the liberty of building this, which is awesome. And I can specify API version. The Datadog API looks for certain things. It supports gRPC as well as HTTP. I'm just using the HTTP version. It's sitting almost essentially, if you've used Lambda extensions, like a sidecar on ECS Fargate. And I'm installing simple. So what does that mean? Well, simple versus batch. Batch sounds exactly what it sounds like. It will collect some things up and asynchronously kind of send them over for you. I'm running install simple. I'm doing simple mode because I just want to flush every time my Lambda finishes. I'm not really sure how I feel versus one versus the other in production. I'm always a little concerned about installing batch because of the fact that I'm afraid that if my Lambda gets chopped off, perhaps my posting to the API for OTel won't happen. In a container running on Fargate, I always install batch. I let the Tokayo runtime for OpenTelemetry just take care of it, and it will send them off in batch. And so, but for Lambda, I tend to feel like I want to install simple. I need to read more of that code and probably could use some, just some time to understand that a little better. Would be curious if other people, I know James and I have talked about this a little bit, but not extensively. But anyway, so I've got a Datadog pipeline, which is cool. Then I'm going to go ahead and collapse that so it gets out of the way. Let's take a look at our function handler. What does that do? So our function handler, we don't need that. Oops, too far. Awesome. Cool thing about Rust, if you haven't used it, or if you've read some of the preview of the Serverless Rust book that is coming out by James and Luciano, they talk about awesomeness of matching and pattern matching and that sort of thing. So if I show you what's actually happening, here's the hint. So my fetch from cache this is how simple it is to get, like I shared earlier, and let's take a look at it real quick. Go back real fast. 1.86 millisecond cache response from a serverless cache, which is stupid fast, can be simply fetched by executing a get. So I have a cache called sample A. There's nothing in sample A, so it's a cache miss at the moment. I haven't said anything, but it's going to return an enum of a get response. So if we dig into that enum, enums and Rust are really, really cool because not only are they an enum, I know, probably back kind of like Tokayo and Tokyo. I like enum for some reason, even though it's not really a long U because there's no vowel on the end, but my childhood Catholic education can be ignored at the moment. So anyway, what I love about Rust enums is they can contain values. So in this case, if it's a miss, it's just a miss, right? It's a constant essentially. But if it's a hit, I get the actual value that's associated with it, which is awesome to me. So let's jump back, kill that buffer. And I can then do something. So like, here's the miss, right? I can say miss, nothing, and then I'm returning none. And we'll talk about that in a second. But if it's a hit, ooh, look right here. I get the value. Oops. And with that value, I can then do something with it. I got a cache hit. I'm going to get some value. They implement try into, which I don't know if I can jump that far. That's on the mod. It's on that. That's not what I want. But try into is basically coded conversions to move data into what I want. And so in this case with Rust, I'm specifying at the end of that colon the data type that I want to use. So I want this to be a string. So this is going to try into a string. If it can't convert into that string, it's going to throw me an exception, or not. It's going to return an error, and then I can deal with it by should have been a string, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Once I get a value, I can then use my cert JSON because I know that my value was a JSON string. This actually returns a result, but I'm choosing to ignore it by unwrapping because, again, this is my prototype and I know what's in there. And then if I get that, I'm actually returning right here an option. Option is another enumeration that has two enums or two values. One is a sum and one is a none, right? So if it's sum, it's going to return this cache model. Cache model is basically this ID, description, and notes, which is what is in there. That cache model is what I return in sum. However, if I don't find a cache model, I don't find a hit, I get a miss, I'm still going to return okay because I want to return a success. The result is successful, but I'm going to return none. I want an empty value. So I don't want to return an error. Now, if I do get an exception from my Memento client, I'm going to this is a bad example, but I could return an error. I'm just returning none at the moment because I'm going to log it, right? I'm tracing the error out, but I don't want to have my program fail. My Lambda shouldn't fail because Memento had a network error. I had a network error. AWS had a network error. I just want to move on. And if I move on, if I receive an item, I'm going to log out cache found. If I don't receive an item, I'm going to go to DynamoDB. And DynamoDB, if you notice, this was the cache call, right? Looks pretty similar to what this looks like. My DDB client executes a get item on a key, on a table, and then it's going to return me an option. So an option to give me the value. And I can then process that item by converting to cert dynamo from item to that cache model, or I can say item not found. In this case, I might return an error because the user tried to request something that legitimately was not there. If you notice, pretty similar. This case, I'm using cert JSON. This case, I'm just using cert dynamo. which is kind of cool. You might be wondering, why am I just returning? And maybe you're not, but I'll share it anyway. You might be wondering, why did I not deal with any exception? This is just, if you were following along, some and none are option enums. Okay and error are result enum values. In this case, I'm handling okay and error. In this case, I'm not. The reason is this question mark. Question mark's a curious little operator in Rust that, when put on the end of a statement or an expression, it will return back the exception, so the error. So I am returning this cache error, but I'm not dealing with it explicitly because I just didn't want to write that extra code. It's kind of a nice convenience. And while I mentioned statements and expressions, Rust has both of those available. Anything that ends in a semicolon is a statement, such as. Anything that does not have a semicolon is an expression. This right here is essentially the same as doing this. It's just going to return that value back out for you. So with our model now, or our results, get rid of that. I have my sum, my none, I have my DB match, and then I have that. And then I'm returning back out just an empty body at the moment in order to deal with that. So what I thought I wanted to do eventually was have a handler, a Lambda function that could deal with the post and deal with creating a new element, have that element go to DynamoDB, and then have that DynamoDB handler on insert or update go ahead and write the cache item into Memento, so that any subsequent fetches of that item would be looked up from the Memento side of things, and then be able to kind of trace that all the way through from Datadog and see how that operated. So we've got 16 minutes. I know that, again, if you're just joining live and you were expecting to see Vadym, I am not him. He dropped early. He had some connectivity issues, I guess going on about 35 minutes ago. Instead of just sitting with dead air or dropping the stream, I'm filling in with not Java. So we are looking at Rust and looking at serverless and looking at Memento. And I'm looking around my desk for a glass of water because I'm getting dry, but I have none, and my family's gone. So it looks like I'm going to be roughing it for the next 16 minutes. And thanks for hanging in there. All right. So let's go through the process of building a new Lambda function to deal with our post. So let's go ahead and kill some of these windows, or these buffers, I should say, in the Vim world. And we've got a get handler. Oops, it's my calendar. Go away, calendar. Should have canceled that. Let's get rid of that. Wow, I have 41 Slack messages. I'm really not looking forward to this stream being over, because now I got to go deal with 41 Slack messages. All right, so I have a shared library right ahead. I have a get handler. Let's create a post handler. Oops, that was a bad move, Ben. Should have done that as a folder, a directory. So delete. Yes. Let's create a post handler. And let's create a cargo. We're going to add cargo.toml. And then I'm going to add a source directory, because that's what Rust likes. And then I'm at a main.rs. Super. Big fan of copying and pasting where I can. Why is that showing up? Oh, I want to ignore cdk.out. I don't want that thing in there. Why does that not have? Should have had that from somewhere. Let's copy that into here. There we go. Much better. Oops. I suspended the wrong keystroke. Tmux attach. There we go. All right. So we're back into my editor here. BD, cancel that. And then we'll go ahead and hide those files. Why that's didn't showing up. Let's just jump back in. Still showed up as it's bothering me that CDK out folder or directory is not being hidden. But I'll delete it. It'll come back later. Okay, so we've got a post handler. And let's look at what our get handler has. So this is our package, our cargo file. I'm going to jump up here. And again, I'm a big fan of some copy and paste. So let's grab that and go over to our post handler and paste that in. We'll call this post handler. What you'll notice is that the Rust LSP or language service provider, language service protocol, will do is it's going to look for the fact that this is not technically a Rust project yet. So we'll do async I'll just do fn main for now. Fn main print ln, which it's not going to like that at the moment because I have not added it to my project. So my workspace is going to tell my my cargo and my LSP and all that good jazz what I have available to me. So it's pointed at post handler, reloading the workspace. Awesome. And now if you notice, I've got different highlighting because my my Rust project is legit at this point. Let's grab this part because I know I'm going to need these things. I'm not going to need all of this. So let's just paste it and then we'll dump it what we don't want. I need a dip. Oops. I am not going to need. Oops. I am still in insert mode. I'm not going to need this. I will not need Memento for this one. I will need the telemetry. I'll need Tokayo. I need a dependencies. And we'll save that right there. If you guys and girls are still hanging in, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think so far. Again, this is 100% on the fly on some stuff that I'm just working on for some side content. And actually a little bit for an upcoming talk that I'm going to do on serverless performance with Rust, which I'm super excited to talk about here in the future. All right, so let's go back to our main, and we're going to add our asynchronous to this. And main is not by default an async function. So async and await in Rust is just like what you would expect from TypeScript. It's got futures and that sort of thing. It's a similar concept. C#'s got the same thing. So we're going to do Tokayo. We'll do main and cool. And then I'm going to grab a little bit of what we had from our, we'll do find get. Oops. That's not good. Is this thing not? It's in that root directory. There's my something's not quite right with my my Vim setup here. My finding get files should have worked, but it's not. So we'll go over and just do this manually until I can figure out why that's not working. Always something fun with Vim. All right. Oh, Ziad, I like it. Getting started with Rust Rover. I love it. And I'm with you, Daryl. Anytime I can look at Rust code, I'm excited to go there. So let's grab this function handler. Well, let's grab our main first, because a lot of this stuff is, again, I could put this in a shared library, which might make some sense. But I'm just going to grab some of what I have right here. And like I said, I don't know why my telescope is not working. So I'll have to I'll have to investigate that when this is over with. Oops. Was the wrong place to paste that. And I lost the buffer. Let's go back and grab it again. And paste it there, and I'll get rid of this. Now what's going to happen, it's going to complain a lot about all my pieces here. So let's add what we need to. Import. Okay. Do some import. I think I'm using 3. I think it's that one. Let's go add our registry. I could have copy and pasted all that too, I guess, at the top of the... but this is just, I'll tell you what, let's do that. I'm going to be even lazier. Let's grab this. Rust Rover is a solid editor. I know James uses Rust Rover. I've used it before. Actually, I like it. Don't let me fool you with my Vimness. I'm a fan of IDEs. I like them. I just started using NeoVim, I don't know, 6 weeks or so ago, and I like the freedom that I get from the keyboard, not being able to kind of bounce through all of my through my terminal. I'm a big terminal user, so I enjoy it. But don't get me wrong, Rust Rover is fantastic. Been working with my kids on Python, and they're using PyCharm pretty extensively. So we're gonna do this. We'll create this. I will come back and we'll talk a little bit about this. I got 7 minutes left. I'm not going to finish this, obviously, but we'll at least talk a little bit more about what some of these pieces are. Function handler. I'm going to just kind of like clean some of this up real quick. I'm going to comment this out for the time being. You'll see some of this on GitHub at some point. And like I said, I'll have an article and some content wrapped around it. We don't need SSM client. I'm not going to need this here. I don't need this. Oops. The reason that I'm creating these like variables here, this is a closure in Rust. Rust has very specific expectations around moving variables. So think about this. This closure is actually being run over and over and over. Every time your function gets run, it's basically an event loop. And so what we're doing here is we're moving values from this shared single space into this event loop, and move is allowing me to copy those values in as needed versus sending them into the closure, which then will borrow them, right? It'll pass and actually send over the actual object itself, and then nothing else can use it, because that's how Rust keeps track of memory, is with the borrow checker. And so instead of borrowing, I'm actually moving the value in so that I'm assigning ownership of that copy at that point in time. Hope I explained that correctly. So yeah, so that's at least the beginning of that. You might notice, or I mentioned earlier on my typo that's sitting right here. Really simple thing. So Rust also has, if you've used C or C++ before, it has macros. Macros are basically snippets, blocks, compilable chunks of code that can wrap your code around or can do things for you. And so the instrument macro, what it does for you is it actually finds the current span that you're executing in, and then we'll create a child span underneath it. And so in this case, if you look at my function handler, I have this thing called function handler, which takes its name from the function name. And then I have fetch from Mo and fetch from DynamoDB. Well, in the other Lambda, oops, did I modify the, oh, I did. Hot dog. I was working on the wrong file. You guys let me do that. I can't believe it. So yeah, we want to do it. So fetch from cache, if you see here, actually has the instrument called fetch from Mo. I can name that whatever I want. Same thing with DynamoDB. And look what I did here. I have a typo. So take that typo out. And next time I publish, then my function will be cleaned up correctly. Now I'm back in this space. I don't need this. This is the part that I need to comment out. I'm in the right file this time. You guys let me get into the wrong file. Wasn't really your fault. I goofed. It was on me. Let's go clean this up real fast. Oops, not too far. And I don't need the Mo client. Oops. I don't need the, I went too far. I need config, but I don't need shared client. Yeah, I don't need a cache client. Yeah. Awesome. So I mess with the function up here. Yeah, because I deleted the Mo client. Great. So tell you what, I have 2 minutes left to go. I'm not going to get much further than this, but there will be more wrapped around it. I am sorry. I was looking forward to Vadym this morning or this afternoon or this evening. It was off to a great start. I hope everything's okay on his end. Hate that the connectivity dropped. I hope that you've enjoyed this like impromptu detour of the Rust, Lambda, and Memento ecosystem, including Datadog. If you're curious about more, hit me up in Discord. Love to talk about it. James has been on. He's a Datadog serverless advocate now, so he can chat with you more about it too. And then I'm sure you can find some Memento people to chat with as well. So this has been fun. Is the way that I might describe it, and I hope that you guys and girls had fun as well. Thanks for hanging around, and we'll see you next time. So have a great day.